So hello everyone, this video is a bit different today. Instead of talking about cars, I'm going to talk about things that I wish I knew before I began my YouTube channel. Now the first thing to talk about is the camera equipment, what you're using to actually record. So I've used a smartphone for most of my YouTube career, if you can call it that, and they are handy, they do make good pictures, but they do have their limitations. They're like old men's willies, they need help to stay upright. So that's why I've got like all of these supports. This is like a tripod that can hold the camera phone. Just hit myself in the face with that. I've got this sucker, this mount to put on my windscreen. In that respect, having something like an actual dedicated camera like a GoPro, other things are available, is very handy because you can just perch it in certain places. You can put it up front, you can put it in a grab handle, for example, and most things are designed to go with action cams. Also, they all usually come with wide angles. This phone has a wide angle, my previous one did not, and that's useful for filming in a cramped space like a car. They also have another advantage which I appreciate a lot. Right now I'm filming on my smartphone because I didn't bring my GoPro with me, and I have no idea if it's filming or not because I can't see the screen, I can't see what I'm filming. A dedicated camera usually has something like a flashing light that tells you it's filming, so it's extremely advantageous. I've had instances where I've been talking to the ether because I didn't know the camera was off. Something just as important, if not more than image quality, is sound. You can even have a visually based video, something that depends on what you're showing, like, I don't know, a light painting, for example. If you put a horrible soundtrack on top, you can ruin the viewer's experience. And the same with hobby YouTubers like me. If you can't understand what I'm saying, or it's just very hard to listen to what I'm saying, then you won't want to watch the video, and that's really important. Now, I'm using the phone's internal microphone. It's not ideal, but it does the trick. I invested in some wireless mics, but these are awful. These are absolutely crap because they're too sensitive and I cannot regulate the levels on my smartphone. It's really awful, and I sometimes get unusable footage, and sometimes when it is usable, it has to be heavily post-processed. So that's definitely something that I wish I knew, how hard it was to capture good sound. Having said that, if you want to invest in proper microphones, that's very expensive. So if you're not thinking of taking this too seriously, like I do, this is just a hobby for me, then yeah, you'll have to make do with whatever sound you can capture. I've actually tried a wide mic, but for some reason, all the wide mics I get break not too long after I buy them. They get this interference, and also the fact that they are limited in how far they can stretch means you can't put the camera wherever you want to. It has to be within a certain distance. My conclusion is, if you have that within your realm of possibilities, you should invest in something like a dedicated camera, in my humble opinion. Now, this is something that I actually knew before, but I didn't know to what extent it was actually incredibly useful to have a GoPro or something like that. Doesn't mean that if you don't, you can't make good videos. You can. Many creative people can work their way around it. Content is basically everything. You can film on a potato with terrible image quality and iffy sound, but if what you're saying is interesting, then people will watch. One of my favorite examples of this is Mr. Hubnut. Hubnut's probably the main inspiration for me creating this channel. His channel is good and it's worth watching because what he films is very interesting. And in my case, of course, I'm very limited in what I film. So something I didn't know before I made this channel was my subject matter was very limited. I was going to make the whole channel about my Citroen C5X7, the fuel consumption it gets, small fixes, that sort of thing. And right now I'm having to make things up because the car has been extremely reliable with nothing to do, so there's no content for me there. I do my videos to try to please myself, and if other people have the same interests as me and are like me, then they will watch the videos, and then we can engage with each other, and I actually get to be part of a community that has similar tastes to me. This is really more for an amateur YouTuber. Besides, what kind of advice could I give to someone to be successful on YouTube if you've seen my subs and how many views I get? Anyway, in a nutshell, you can have the greatest image quality and sound, but if your content is rubbish, your video is going to be rubbish too. It's something I did know before, but it's something that probably I didn't give enough thought to before making the channel. Now, the aforementioned Mr. Hubnut has very simple editing. He just points, shoots, talks over, and he can make use, by his own admission, of about 90% of what he films. And that's fine, but sometimes editing can transform a rather banal video into something rather exceptional, or an already good video into something absolutely brilliant. One YouTuber who springs to mind who does this very well to great effect is Robert Dunn of Aging Wheels fame. Brilliant. He does these jump cuts, and then sometimes like he's talking to himself. It just adds another dimension to the video, makes it more entertaining. Now this can be quite the learning curve for some people, because I do know someone, and I don't think it's the only person, they don't even know how to trim a video, let alone actually edit it on a program like this. This is Adobe Premiere Pro, and it's the most famous program alongside, I think, Final Cut, but there are lots of freeware solutions as well. The problem is I learnt how to edit on Adobe Premiere Pro, so I'm sort of like stuck. I'm too used to this to change now. Definitely something worth investing in, and personally I think it's worth it because it's lots of fun to edit videos. I personally like it a lot, and I like it when like a little editing trick goes well. It's very satisfying. Now, location is very important, and sometimes it's something that's overlooked. And again, I'm looking at amateur people like me. If you've got your own studio, you know, you're set, you're a pro. But if you're an amateur using a smartphone, then things change. Now, if you're a 12-year-old, you know, you've got your own bedroom, you're fine. Your parents knock on the door, you can scream at them and tell them they're ruining your life and all that stuff that kids do, you're fine. If you're a bachelor or a singleton, you live alone, again, you're fine. If you're like me and you have lots of people living in your house, I've got 2 children and a wife, then obviously I don't want to annoy them with my filming, so I try to go elsewhere. My car is a really good place to film because it's got lots of sound deadening material. It's also good for recording videos because I'm mobile, I can go places, but that's where the advantages end. Some places are very noisy. Some places have people actually coming up to you to see what you're doing, especially in this country. They're very curious. You've got to be careful where you go. Once I stopped at a place that I thought was a patch of very quiet forest. It turns out it was a hot spot for prostitution, and these ladies began to come up to the car, and I had to really quickly turn the car on, all flustered, and skedaddle out of there. Once I also stopped out in the countryside, and I was accosted by the police, who thought I was probably soliciting ladies who were, you know, offering their services. The truth, of course, was much more embarrassing. I was doing a YouTube video. Fortunately, fate has provided me with some places. Right now I'm near my wife's farm. It's not brilliant. I can't come here all the time because there are other people working here, and they do make noise and stuff. This place is also in the path of airplanes as they fly over, and I've got a metro line and a motorway not too far away, so noise level sometimes can be annoying. I also have a house in the country, and that's brilliant. I can just walk out my front door, go 5 minutes, and I can film in the nude if I wanted to. No one would be the wiser. Don't worry, I wouldn't subject you to that. The problem with my country house is that it's a long way away, and I only go there every 2 weeks. I also have another problem. I don't like people staring at me or listening to me while I film, so that's why I try to isolate myself. But if you've got no sense of shame or embarrassment or anything like that, you can film anywhere. You're fine. What I wish I knew before I started the channel was how much of a pain in the backside this was going to be, because I have to drive sometimes for miles and miles and miles and miles to find a nice quiet spot. And then sometimes that quiet spot isn't so quiet. And last but definitely not least, this is something that you have to know if you're going to upload it to YouTube. It's a lot of work. So first off, you've got to create your channel, think of a name for the channel, think of a description for the channel, think of a proper picture for the channel, you know, the icon, whatever, the avatar, whatever you want to call it, a watermark if that's also something that you want to do, a banner as well. Hello dog, can I help you? Good dog. Then you probably have to make an intro video, that also helps. I'm gonna have to make another one because mine just is crap. Then with every video you have to upload it, you have to think of a description, you also have to think of a thumbnail. So maybe image editing skills will come in handy. Then there are calls to action. Now at the very beginning I didn't really care about the calls to action, so it's basically telling people to subscribe and share and comment and all that stuff. And it's important if you want your channel to grow, even if it's just a bit. Then the comments start rolling in. and most of the comments that I get on this channel are very nice indeed, or they're just people asking questions. It's great, it's been fantastic. You do get the odd troll, and they do stick in your minds, but you know, if most of the comments are positive, then you learn to just ignore that. There are always going to be trolls everywhere, especially on the internet. Please don't forget that. Not everyone on the internet is nice, and it can be very damaging to people if you're not prepared. This is Peanut, by the way. There's no problem using snippets of famous stuff. I remember I tried that. The first time I remember trying it was using a bit of a Marvel movie. So it was Caecilius telling the Ancient One that she was a hypocrite from Doctor Strange. And I was like, oh God, am I going to get a copyright strike? And it turned out I didn't, so I was fine. People use snippets all the time. I think it's fine. But if you want to use more than that, then you might get into trouble. Try to use your own music if you have any. I have this one tune that I made when I had my multimedia company many years ago. That's good, so I don't have to pay copyright unless it was to myself. And apart from that, I use the YouTube audio library, which is really good. You've got lots of free music and lots of free sound effects as well. Top marks for that. That's really handy. Also try to maybe familiarize yourself with some of the tools. I mean, you've got a YouTube editor, it can edit clips, so maybe something that was in there that you don't want anymore, you can cut that out. Also familiarize yourself with the cards and the end screens as well. So yeah, there's this whole technical side of YouTube that you probably have no idea how much work it can be. So yeah, there's something else that I think many aspiring YouTubers should know about if they haven't already found out for themselves the hard way. So lovely people of the internet, don't take this as sort of a guide how to make YouTube videos. It's not that at all. This is things that I wish that I knew before I started YouTube. So it all varies, you know, it depends on what you're doing, what your objectives are, etc. If before anyone asks, I do make money off these videos, but pitifully little. You can probably tell by the number of views I have, but the little that I do make, you know, help me buy, for example, this GoPro. Now, the idea, of course, is, again, I reiterate, I am no authority in telling you how to make successful YouTube videos, as my subs and my views denote. But it might be useful for someone who's not really sure how to go about making a YouTube video, needed just, I don't know, pointers for someone who's already gone through the process. So if that's the case, then I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, please subscribe, please share, etc. I will leave a comment, of course. You might have questions, or you just want to say something, or maybe you actually went through a process similar to mine, I don't know. Either way, I appreciate your coming here, and I bid you all farewell. See you in a future video. Bye bye.